Welcome to The Explainer. You've probably heard this idea floating around that Japanese is this incredibly unique, super difficult language, totally unlike anything else on Earth. It's a popular take, for sure, but is there any truth to it?
So let's get right into it. The heart of this whole myth really boils down to this one question. Is Japanese a linguistic orphan, a total loner with no family to speak of? Well, that's the mystery we're going to unravel together today.
First things first, we've got to do a little detective work. We're going to go on a hunt for the family of the Japanese language. Now you might be wondering, how do you even build a family tree for a language? Well, linguists have a method. They look at the absolute basics. Core words for things like hand, water, one, two, to eat. You know, the kind of words that languages are least likely to borrow from their neighbors. If those core words are similar, and the sounds change in predictable ways over time, then bingo, you've probably found a relative.
Okay, so armed with that strategy, linguists went searching, trying to find any of Japanese's long-lost cousins. Let's see what they came up with.
And this is where it gets really interesting. People have looked everywhere. Some scholars pointed south, saying Japanese sounds a bit like languages in the Pacific. Others looked north, to places like Korea or Mongolia, because the grammar seems to match up in some really interesting ways. And, of course, some folks just said, hey, maybe it's a mix of both. But here's the key, the big takeaway. Not a single one of these theories has enough hard evidence to be proven.
Which leads us here. After decades of searching, of comparing, the trail just goes cold. There's no definitive Proto-Japanese something language that we can point to. It really seems to be standing all on its own.
And because of that, it's gotten an official classification. Right now, Japanese is considered a language isolate, a language with no known relatives. So, case closed, right? The myth is true. Well, not so fast.
What if we've been asking the wrong question this whole time? Let's stop looking for its family for a second, and instead, let's look at how Japanese actually works, how it behaves.
And this slide lays out the new game plan perfectly. So far, we've been focused on genealogy, its family history, but now we're going to switch gears completely and look at typology, its structural traits. Think of it like this. Genealogy asks, who are your parents? Typology asks, what's your personality type? You can have no known relatives in the world, but share a personality type with millions of other people.
Okay, so let's see how this works. One of the biggest personality traits a language can have is how it builds words to show grammar. And all around the world, there are pretty much three main ways languages do this.
First up, you've got isolating languages. Here, words are kind of like separate, unchanging blocks of Lego. To say, I will go, you'd literally just say something like, I will go. The words themselves don't change. It's the order you put them in that creates the meaning.
Then you've got inflectional languages. These guys are all about efficiency. They squish a ton of grammatical meaning, like who did the action, when they did it, and how many people were involved, into one single little ending. Think of languages like Latin, where changing one little thing at the end of a verb changes everything.
And finally, we get to the agglutinating languages. You can think of these as the master builders of the language world. They take a main word, and then they just glue on a whole string of different pieces, where each little piece does one specific job. And as you can see, this is exactly where we find Japanese, hanging out with languages like Turkish and Korean.
And this is a perfect example of what I mean. Just look at this one Japanese word. It starts with the root kik, which means listen. And then, like stacking blocks, it glues on a piece for passive voice, another for tense, another for possibility, and so on. Each part has a clear, separate job, all stuck together in a nice, neat line. This isn't weird at all. It's classic agglutinating behavior.
Okay, so we know how Japanese builds its words. It's a stacker, an agglutinator. Now, let's zoom out and look at the whole sentence. How does Japanese sentence structure stack up against the rest of the world?
So the most basic blueprint for any sentence is word order, right? The order of the subject, the object, and the verb. In English, we say, I, subject, eat, verb, apples, object. That's SVO. So where does Japanese fit in?
And boom, here it is. This is the big aha moment. Japanese uses subject-object-verb order, as in, I apples eat. Now look at this chart. That SOV structure isn't rare, it isn't weird. It's used by almost half of all the languages on planet Earth. It's basically tied for the most common word order in the entire world.
But wait, it gets even better. Languages that put the verb at the end, these SOV languages, they often share a whole bunch of other features. It's like a package deal. And what do you know? Japanese ticks every single box. It behaves exactly like a normal textbook
SOV language.
So let's put all these pieces together and finally deliver the verdict on this whole weirdest language myth.
And this is the part that's so crucial to understand. Don't mix these two terms up. Language isolate is a genealogical term. It's about its family tree or lack of one. Isolating language is a typological term. It's about its structure, its personality. So yes, Japanese is a language isolate, but it is absolutely not an isolating language. In fact, it's the opposite. It's an agglutinating one.
This right here is the heart of it all. If you look at its family tree, yeah, Japanese is on its own. It's genealogically lonely. But if you look at its personality, how it's built, its grammar, it's incredibly sociable. It shares its most important traits with thousands of other languages spoken by billions of people. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The linguist Tasaku Tanoda, after comparing Japanese to languages all over the world, came to this exact conclusion. It is, quote, a very normal, common language. The myth is officially busted.
So we solved one mystery, but it leaves us with an even bigger and maybe even more interesting one. If all these languages, from totally different families, ended up with the same basic blueprints for building sentences, what does that tell us about the human brain itself? About how we're all wired to create language in the first place? Now that is something to think about.